Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Now, I mentioned before, when you're on a Texas yard, the gangs that, as far as the Mexican go, that runs the yard are the Texas Syndicate, the Texas MA, and the Norteños. Some yards have Tango Blast on them and other dudes from Texas. But if you're not part of those three core group, everybody else has to run Solano. Solano means that you're on your own. You're running solo. You don't get any saying in any of the politics that has to do with the yard. You don't get any TVs. You don't get any tables. If a Solano is in a cell and a TS member or a Texas MA member wants that cell because it's a better location as far as being able to see the TV or have access to whatever, they can come in and have those dudes move out the cell and they move in. Again, Solanos don't get any say in any of the politics that happens in the penitentiary. They don't have a car. The TS speaks for them. So dudes that come over there are Mexican that came from across the street at the FCI level. These dudes are from New Mexico. Now at the FCI, there's a lot of dudes from New Mexico over there, and they had their own car, the New Mexico car. But when it came to the penitentiary, to the USP, they weren't allowed to have a car. Like, they can function and hang out with their homies and kick it on the yard and all that, but they couldn't politic. They couldn't be like New Mexico, go against dudes from Denver or anything like that. Whatever politics, whatever issues that comes up, they have to go through the TS and the Texas MA to mediate for them. Now, when I was there on the yard, they had a dude, a TS dude named Wize. He was a youngster, but from all the people that have been at other places for him, they know he pops slick with his mouth. Like, I'm not here to say anything negative or discredit dude. I don't know anything about dude, don't know about his case. I'm just telling you what the consensus was with people that dealt with him. You know, I played handball with him a couple times when he came up to rec with us, but outside of that, I have no rapport, no relations to the dude. He was living in CB. I lived in DA. Well, in CB, again, the Texas Syndicate, they speak for the Solano. And him being in the yard, being in CB, he outranked all the Solanos. Like, he dictate what they were able to do and what they couldn't do. But at the same time, even though you got these Mexican dudes that are running Solano, they're still men. They're still in the penitentiary for a reason. But somehow, because you don't belong to these families or these groups or these prison gang, some of these members that lack the respect for other people feel they're above the rest. So Wize popped slick to a dude from New Mexico. And the dude from New Mexico wasn't no punk. So the dude from New Mexico, said, man, I'm trying to see you in the cell. So they went in the cell and went head up, just with their hands. Because if the dude from New Mexico tried to stab the Wize from TS, then he would have got all his homeboys chopped up, But the dude from New Mexico didn't understand the politics, or he couldn't accept the politics that was going on in USP Florence. You're not allowed to put your hands on any of these gang members, because the gang members ain't gonna allow you to whoop one of them. Yeah, just because you're a gang member, because you're a made man, doesn't mean you're any tougher or fight any better or any more crazy than the next man that's in the penitentiary with you. Once you feel, because of your affiliation, that you're better than someone or that you're tougher than someone, it's going to set you up for disappointment Because again, we're all men. And even those that are gang members, even those that have been made and got tattoos on them and patches on them, it doesn't mean anything. They could have got it because of their affiliation, because they had homies that were from that hood and put them on. They might not have put in any work, but because of their relationship, they were able to become a member. So Wize, he wasn't ducking no wreck. He went into the room with a dude from New Mexico. But the dude from New Mexico pieced him up, beat him up. He didn't stomp him out or anything, because at the same time, he understand that he can only go so far. You know, maybe he didn't respect or understand the seriousness of the politic, but at the same time, you can only be disrespected and being talked to greasy by dude so often and so many times before you're like fed up and like, fuck it, I'm trying to see you. So it got to that point, and they went to the cell, and from everybody that came out of the cell, that lived in the unit, Wize got beat up. You know, he got his eyes blackened and bruised, and wasn't able to leave the cell because, you know, you can't walk around the unit busted up with a black eye or anything, because that's going to attract the attention of the CO, and they're going to come and try to figure out what happened, and they're going to lock you up because they're going to feel that you've been victimized, and to stop any further incident from transpiring, they're going to lock you up and try to investigate to who was the other person involved. So the next few days, Wize never came out of the unit because, you know, he was bruised up. So when I come out in the compound, you know, my homeboy lived in over there. My homeboy Tran lived over there, and he's a Vietnamese dude that lived over there in CB. He had told me what happened. And and I tell Tran, it's like, that's not gonna let, you know, the TS is not gonna let that ride. Because I understand the politics. I respect the politics. Not because I'm scared or anything like that. It's because I respect the politics to eliminate myself from certain headaches. You know, if I had an issue with one of these gang members, TS, Texas MA, or anybody that's made, whether they're from a black gang, a white gang, or a Mexican gang, I understand that they're not going to allow me to whoop one of their homies. So if it goes to that, I'm just going to try to murk them, and they're going to ship me out to the shoe and send me off to another joint, because I know they're not going to allow me to stay on the compound without getting some get back. That's just the way it works. But through the course of my time, again, like, I've never had any issues with people, because I've always conducted myself a certain way. And if somebody jumped out there and be disrespectful, I have enough rapport with other members of their organization to mediate it and figure it out before it gets serious. Now, I'm on the compound, and homies telling me this, and we're on the track. You know, in yard 1 is where you got indoor rec, and you got the track with the football field. I go out to the yard every day. Every day, I try to get me some sun, go out there to work out, get some rec. But while I'm out there, I notice all these people grouping up. You know, I see the TS powwowing over here in the corner, and I see the New Mexico powwowing. So that's when my homeboy Tran told me what had happened in his block. And as I'm observing the yard, I'm telling him, like, those New Mexico shouldn't be out there powwowing, because when they're grouping up, you know, the TS is not part of the conversation. So from them looking at what they're seeing, they might assume that these dudes are plotting and can get their whole car wrecked, right? But they're over there walking the yard, you know, the New Mexico politicking, powwowing, and all the rest. So a few days later, when Wize healed up enough to be able to come out the unit without getting noticed, you know, by the CO from all the bruises and stuff, they went and had a meeting in rec. You know, I go in there. I have a close relationship with different members of these different gangs. Like in rec, in the leather shop, the Texas MA ran that leather shop. And I'm really good friends with Rudy from the Texas MA and a couple other of them. So when I go to rec, I spend a lot of time in the leather shop just kicking it, chopping it up. But the homie Player and Al, they ran the paint shop. And I'll be over there sometime kicking it with Al and Player and the rest. I move around in different circles and, you know, I have a different relationship. But when I'm going into to go in and kick it in the paint shop where Player ran, I see all the TS members in there powwowing. So out of respect, I don't go in, I turn around and go mind my business. But you know, I've been locked up a long time. So when I see certain things, people don't have to tell me what's going on. I already know what the conversation that they're having because there's only one conversation that you can have. Wize got beat up by a Solano dude, by a dude from New Mexico. The TS member is not going to allow that because they can't have their gang members getting in a fist fight on a compound and getting beat up. Like if Wize would have won, it would have been a dead issue, no problem. But because he got beat up, it makes the TS dudes look bad. So now there's only a couple options left. Either Wize go back and punish this dude, or they're all gonna crash with the New Mexico dudes, or the TS is gonna punish him for making him look bad. So like I said, just seeing them powwowing in the paint shop, I already knew the conversation. So on this particular day, I'm in the block. And when they're calling back in from morning rec, it was on a weekend, the deuces go off. I look out the window to see who's involved because, you know, when the deuces go off, everybody runs through the window because they want to know they ain't got nothing to do with their people. Because if you see a white dude and a black dude being pulled out and they had happened to get into a confrontation, that could spread a whole riot throughout the penitentiary. You know? So when the deuces go off, you go to the window and look, not just to be nosy, but for your own safety to make sure that your group of people is not involved in the incident. Well, they pulled the dude out. They pulled Wize out. I didn't see who else they pulled out because, you know, I didn't know the New Mexico dude, but I recognized Wize. He's a skinny Mexican, you know, youngster. So they pulled him out. So what had to transpire in the conversation, like I said, I wasn't there. I didn't hear the conversation. I wasn't part of the conversation. But me being a person with a little common sense, I can pretty much tell you what was said just from my experience. They had gave him Wize an ultimatum. He need to go back and make this right. So when they left that conversation in the morning and went back into the unit, Wize ran up in the cell and started stabbing dude. They said they fucked him up, stabbed the dude all in the face, the chest, the neck. He didn't kill him, but from all the account in the block, like Wize did his thing and fucked off dude all the way. But you know, for Wize, he didn't really have a choice because it's either he goes back and punish this dude or he was gonna get punished by his homeboy. And in New Mexico, you know, I have a few friends that are from New Mexico. And I'm not saying anything against them and how they were doing their time in Florence. But for me personally, I just can't see somebody dictating how I do my time and somebody being allowed to come and stab up my homeboy without me getting some get back. I just can't comprehend that thought process. But from their perspective, they were outnumbered and, you know, they weren't running as a gang. So I guess they were like, all right, to each their own. But the reason I mentioned that is because when they were in the FCI, they had their own car and they were pushing the line, and they were all fine and dandy with being a coalition with their homies from New Mexico. But when they get to the USP Florence and weren't allowed to that, they bowed down to the politics and they let this dude come in the cell and stab up their homeboy. When, by all account, they already dealt with their business. Whatever dispute they had, they already went into the cell and went heads up, and that should have been squashed because the New Mexico didn't stomp the dude out after he punished him. You know, they fought to the point where he won and beat him up, and that should have been dead because it was two men dealing with a situation. But Wize being from TS, and the TS have a certain reputation, they weren't gonna let that go. And this dumbass dude from New Mexico didn't have enough common sense to realize that. You've already crossed the line that you know you're not allowed to go back from. So the only choice you should have made was to keep pushing until, until you punish the dude all the way out or blow up the yard. Because now you're not respecting the politic. You sat around thinking everything is cool, that you beat up this gang member and everything is gravy. But it turned out your ass got punished. Dude ran up in the cell and stabbed them all up in the face. And the reason I mention this story is just, you have to understand the politics in every yard you go to. Every yard you go to, there's different politics. And if you're not a gang member, you know that these dudes are untouchable, meaning that you put your hands on them, there's going to be repercussion. So if you put your hands on them, make sure it counts. And also, if you're a gang member, you have to understand that your people is not going to allow you to make them look bad. So if you're always in a situation where you're getting yourself beat up or you're causing problems or whatever, they're going to deal with you. And when it comes to gang members, they're not going to jump on you and beat you up. They're going to stab you because they have a higher standards on how to deal with situation. And those are just the facts. Welcome to the USP.